It turns out the US Department of Justice is both hurting and helping Tesla. Elon reiterates that Tesla will get into advertising once they figure out how to do it. And Norway demonstrates the much hoped for oil death spiral. Let's take a look. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. I'm going to start with the two sides of the DOJ coin. Here we can see Tesla reveals DOJ has ramped up investigation with subpoenas from Electric. Of course, I will leave a link to all of these in the description. Anyway, if we look here, we can see Tesla has revealed that the Department of Justice has ramped up its investigation into the company with subpoenas related to several matters. So as you can see here, recently Tesla has reported that the SEC has been asking questions about Tesla's autopilot and full self-driving features, but now they've actually expanded it out past just full self-driving and autopilot. From Tesla's report, additionally, the company has received requests for information, including subpoenas from the DOJ regarding certain matters associated with personal benefits, related parties, vehicle range, and personnel decisions. To our knowledge, no government agency in any ongoing investigation has concluded that any wrongdoing occurred. We cannot predict the outcome or impact of any ongoing matters. Should the government decide to pursue an enforcement action, there exists the possibility of a material adverse impact on our business, result of operation, prospects, cash flows, financial position, or brand. So of course that's legal speak for just like they have no idea something bad could happen basically. But anyway, this seems to go back to the Elon Musk glass house thing, which reported that Elon asked Tesla to build him a glass house. Elon has flat out denied this. Who knows what's actually going on with this? But anyway, that seems to be what's going on with the personal decision things, helping him out personally. There is also the aspect of personnel, which there have been, suits and things from people that says they were discriminated against by not being employed, by being fired, all of that kind of stuff. So a lot of that stuff is a little bit run of the mill. It's a little surprising the DOJ is getting involved in that, since that seems like civil court kind of stuff to deal with. But anyway, at a best guess, that's what's going on here. And then, of course, you've got the vehicle range aspect. There have been a lot of people that say that Tesla overstates their range. So if they say the car is getting 330 miles of range, the real world is more like 280 or something along those lines. This does seem a little bit iffy because, of course, the EPA ratings are always, kind of, they're never real world. If you have a gas car that says you have 350 miles of range, you never get 350 miles of range unless you drive exactly 35 in perfect conditions and there are no traffic lights or stop signs or anything. So yeah, you could probably do that under those circumstances, but then you can also do that with the Tesla as well. And there have been people that have done that kind of drive that have actually gotten more miles out of a Tesla than is rated, but you have to do it under very carefully controlled circumstances. So that kind of seems like a non-starter, but anyway, the DOJ is actually looking into that. And then finally from this article, Tesla investors and analysts have been worried about the recent sudden departure of CFO Zach Kirkhorn. And that is a real concern. He did leave very, very rapidly without seemingly an awful lot of preamble to all of this. But, there's a lot of reasons that could happen. One could just be that he's just tired. But of course, another could be that he and Elon had gotten into a tussle about future directions and financing and things like that for Tesla. So it's a little unclear. We will probably find out more in the next year or so, or at least whether the new CFO comes in and does a good job. And so we can, take Zach Kirkhorn out of the equation without too much of a disruption. Certainly there will be things going on behind the scenes that it's a major shift of power to have your chief financial officer leave and be replaced with a new one. It's particularly important for a company that has such a logistics nightmare as Tesla does, all with the supply chain of different raw components and all of the different third-party vendors and all of that kind of stuff. So it is a really big deal, but you don't want to overstate that too much yet. This kind of thing happens all the time. From that relatively negative news, we can turn to much more positive news for Tesla. Tesla gets US support in lawsuit against Louisiana direct sales ban. So if you don't know, Louisiana and several other states actually have a law against non-car dealerships dealing in a state. And so Tesla is not able to sell cars, and I guess they're not even able to service them in Louisiana. So if you live in a place like New Orleans, you're a ways away from the Florida border or the Mississippi border, and I don't think you can actually service them in Mississippi either. So you kind of have to go to Florida or Texas on the far end. So it's a bit of a drive for these people to actually get to a place that they can purchase or service these vehicles. So Tesla is obviously saying, hey, we want to be able to sell and service vehicles in Louisiana. That was shut down by the judge in the original case, but Tesla appealed that ruling, and it says here, it now has been revealed that the US DOJ is backing one of Tesla's legal arguments in the lawsuit, which alleges that car dealers and others in Louisiana conspired to limit competition by banning direct sales of cars in the state. Tesla is suing the Louisiana Automobile Dealers Association, members of the Louisiana Motor Vehicle Commission, and a group of dealers. Specifically, the government statement echoes Tesla's statement, which said U.S. District Judge Sarah Vance erroneously ruled that the company was required to show that members of Louisiana's Motor Vehicle Commission had intent to curb market competition. The DOJ emphasized that it does not support Tesla or its opponents and has no opinion on the proper disposition of the appeal. Importantly here, the Justice Department and lawyers for Tesla said the U.S. civil antitrust law does not require a showing of intent. Adding that requirement would improperly restrict antitrust law, Justice Department lawyers told the appeals court. So basically, Tesla is suing these groups in Louisiana under civil criminal law, not under criminal law. And there's a big difference. In criminal law, you are assumed innocent until proven guilty in the United States, whereas in civil law, you actually don't have to have that kind of burden of proof from the plaintiff's side of things. And so therefore, with civil law, you don't have to show as much of that intent, guilt, all of that kind of stuff that you would have to show in a criminal trial. So Tesla's burden of proof is much lower than it would be in a criminal type of suit. And that's basically what the DOJ is saying in their brief here. They're saying that the judge went overboard in terms of throwing out this court case, and that under civil law, you don't have to show intent. So who knows how this will turn out? Louisiana is a very, very weird state. It has a lot of its own laws, but I believe this is done under the federal law. And so therefore, it's actually more US type court system. So who knows what'll happen, but it's good news that Tesla has not outright been rejected in this case. Turning from that to advertising briefly, Tesla is going to get into larger scale advertising, but only once it figures out how. Here we have Elon Musk said that Tesla will get into, quote, larger scale advertising, something that investors have been calling for, but only once the company figures out how. Earlier this year, CEO Elon Musk announced, and by the way, it should be Techno King, Elon Musk announced a reversal of his long-standing strategy that Tesla not spend on advertising, but instead spend money to improve the products, counting on owners to spread the word. And if we turn to the genesis of this article, we see that James Stevenson posted something about advertising. And by the way, you should follow James on X. He's amazing. Although Tesla is selling significantly more cars every year and taking substantial market share, competitors still account for more than 90% of all new car sales. Up until recently, Tesla has been a fairly low volume automaker, able to design and manufacture products so desirable that word of mouth advertising alone was sufficient to grow sales at greater than 50% per year. And then the important part, of course, you can read the original post. I'll leave a link to that in the description, but making products people love and reducing their prices only can drive buyer interest so far if awareness is low. To which Elon responded a little bit snippily here. I said we would advertise. We are doing so at small scale and will do so at larger scale as we figure out what works best. So of course, the origin of this was Meet Kevin at the shareholder meeting back in May, asking Elon if he would advertise. Elon responding, yes, we will advertise. We'll figure out how. They've done some Google ads, specifically in Europe, and now in Japan, they're running billboard ads at the airport. But anyway, it is beginning to look like they're growing out their advertising. This is what a lot of investors, a lot of analysts, and other people have called for. I want to throw out some numbers here to make you understand how far advertising dollars can go. So let's say that Tesla decided to spend $100 million on advertising, and you could say, wait, they could cut the cost of vehicles instead, and that would be much better spent. So let's say Tesla makes 2 million vehicles, just to make round numbers and make it easy, and that's about what they're making this year. So, they've got a run rate of about that. Anyway, if they made 2 million vehicles and they spent $100 million on reducing the cost of vehicles, that would reduce the cost of each vehicle by $50. That is not a lot of money. That's not, when you're looking at spending $40 or $50 plus $1,000, something that you're really going to bat an eye at in terms of the cost of the vehicle. So in order to make it, reduce the price to an amount that people will actually pay attention to, it's got to be $1,000, $2,000, something along those lines to make people stand up and pay attention. And that's a lot more than $100 million. And $100 million in YouTube ads, in X ads, in, even traditional media ads, in Google search ads, things like that, airport billboards, whatnot. that will go a long way. $100 million can go a long way in terms of advertising. And that was just a number I just pulled out of a hat. So anyway, they could spend 50 million, 200 million, whatever they want to spend, but they have that kind of cash, and it will go a lot further, advertising will, than cutting the cost of each vehicle by $50. And one note here from at least my point of view is that advertising is about the future, not about the now. Advertising is to allow people to understand that Tesla in the United States is an American brand. In China, it's a Chinese brand. In Europe, it's a European brand because it's made in Berlin. So you can advertise that kind of a way to each individual area, geography. You can also advertise the advantages of a Tesla. Tesla has a lot of competitors that advertise against it and say that they're the first to do something, they're the best at something, whereas factually Tesla was the first to do it. Factually, Tesla is the best at that, and nobody knows because they're not advertising. So what you're doing is you're expanding the awareness. As James Stevenson said, you're making more people aware of Tesla and the advantages of a Tesla and why you would want to look at that. That might not give you an immediate turnaround, and in a month you might not see a growth in sales or something, but what you're really looking at is a year to 2 to 3 to 4 years from now, as people who are not purchasing a car right now and will in the future go, oh yeah, I remember Tesla, they've been doing advertising, I've seen that. And so they go and explore the brand, and they discovered that actually it is a pretty good deal and they might want to consider purchasing it. So as I've always said, Tesla should be advertising not for now. They don't need to do it now, although the timing is getting close, but they need to be doing it for 1 to 2 to 5 years from now. That's the place that you advertise for. You advertise for the future, not for the now. Anyway, definitely let me know in the comments what you think about that. But I want to finally turn to something that is very important, I think, here, and that is cratering motor fuel sales in Norway show the death spiral that can end oil. Reading a little bit of this article, it's common knowledge that Norway is the land of electric cars and that the country keeps breaking EV sales records with virtually no new fossil fuel vehicle sales. But what's really important is the effect those EVs are finally having on oil sales, which are in steep decline in the country as a result. And the same thing could happen elsewhere. Norwegian statistics agency SSB released its latest numbers on motor fuel sales today, showing a whopping 9% decline in motor fuel sales year over year for the month of September. So, of course, even though almost all new car sales in Norway are electric vehicles, there are still fossil fuel vehicles on the road from previous years that are continuing to pollute and use fossil fuels throughout their life cycle. But as they age and are replaced almost solely with EVs, the vehicle fleet cycles out from fossil fuels to electric. If it takes 10 to 15 years for the vehicle fleet to cycle out completely, then that means that Norway would remove 6 to 10% of fossil fuel cars from the road every year. And of course, if you look at this graph from down below, you can see those statistics playing out. So there was a reduction in gasoline cars over time as Norway switched over to diesel mostly. So you can see that diesel actually rose, but somewhere around 2015, which is the rise of the electric vehicle for real in Norway, you can see that start to tail off, and a lot of these other energy sources are tailing off as well. And the net effect of this is a 9% decline this year alone. As the article says, Norway's decline in motor fuel sales seems to be happening almost twice as fast on a percentage basis as the United States' decline in coal use, at least according to today's data point, and the long-term trend may accelerate as the country now has virtually no gas vehicle sales. And then the article goes on to talk about how digging oil out of the ground, ever more difficult oil to get to, and burning it will cause catastrophic climate change issues. Even if you're a climate change denier, and I don't know exactly how you can be these days, but even if you are, definitely check out my video from yesterday, because there I talk about not burning oil as a national security issue for most nations. Even nations that have a lot of oil, you still end up importing some oil, and also oil potentially is giving money to geographies in the world that are unstable. And so what you're doing is you're supporting unstable governments. That is very, very dangerous. And that geopolitical instability is not something that we really want to continue. So moving over to EVs, even if you put aside the fact that they're less costly to own and operate, even if you put aside climate change, they are a national security issue. They are a big, big deal. You want to get off oil and start using electricity to power as many vehicles as possible. And that's true even for a big country like the United States that has a lot of oil in the country. You still want to get off that dependence. So the good news here from this article is that Norway, again, is leading the way. They're showing how these oil sales will collapse very, very rapidly. Once almost all new vehicles sold are electric, it means that somewhere around 10% of the vehicle fleet every year that was burning oil will be removed from that fleet as they age out. And you will use less oil, you'll need less oil. And that, of course, means that big oil companies are going to feel the pinch and they're going to have to downsize or go bankrupt. It also means that gas stations are going to start to go away and they will be replaced by EV chargers. And again, remember that EV chargers are not based on fossil fuels only. Yes, they can be powered by coal. They can also be powered by hydro or solar or wind or a number of other types of power supply. So power that goes to electric vehicles can come from numerous different places, including some very, very green sources, whereas burning oil is always going to be burning oil and there's no way to get around that. So in the end, this is really, really good signs of things to come. Norway is showing us the future, and the future is going to be much, much greener. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it fun and interesting and thought-provoking. If you did, please do like it so other people can find it. And of course, consider subscribing for more of this kind of content. As always, a huge shout out to my patrons on Patreon, my YouTube channel members, and of course, my ex-subscribers. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel in any way that you can. And of course, if you want to join any of the teams, just check out the links in the description. And if you're interested in a whole bunch of really cool merch, check out our merch store. Link is in the description. We have TeslaBot t-shirts, the Tesla meme t-shirt, success is a possible outcome, 4680 battery cells. All of that stuff is on t-shirts, mugs, tumblers, and on and on. So check it out. And finally, don't forget that we are both Tesla and Amazon affiliates. If you check out the links in the description, you can see how going shopping for a new Tesla, a solar roof, a power wall, or anything on Amazon helps out the channel. In the meantime, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.